Welcome to Building the Future, hosted by Kevin Horick. With millions of listeners a month, Building the Future has quickly become one of the fastest rising programs, with a focus on interviewing startups, entrepreneurs, investors, CEOs, and more. The radio and TV show airs in 15 markets across the globe, including Silicon Valley. For full showtimes, past episodes, or to sponsor the show, please visit buildingthefutureshow.com.
The show is a proud media partner for the 11th Annual Media Excellence Awards, which are produced by Access Entertainment in Los Angeles, California. The Media Excellence Awards are recognized as the most influential awards show honoring innovation and leadership in all things mobile entertainment, lifestyle, and technology. For more information on how to submit to these awards, please visit MediaXAwards.com. Welcome back to the show. Today we have Leah Simon-Selly. She's a coordinator at Alpha Lab Gear Hardware Cup, and Shantanu Bella, co-founder and CEO at Somatic Labs. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you guys both on the show. I think what you guys are doing at the Hardware Cup is actually quite fascinating, but maybe before we kind of get into all that fun stuff, let's get to know each one of you a little bit better. And Leah, I'll let you start off.
Certainly. So I'm Leah Simon-Selly, coordinator of the Hardware Cup based in Pittsburgh, PA.
Very cool.
I am a marketing communications person that just got really lucky and fell into the tech world and kind of fell in love with all of the things that we've got going on here, not just in Pittsburgh, but all around the U.S. and all around the world.
Okay, how did you fall into the space? Just out of curiosity.
So you know what? There was this. I moved back to Pittsburgh after about 10 years away.
Okay.
And I was looking in the nonprofit world, and doing some job searching, doing some informational interviews, and I heard about Alpha Lab Gear, this accelerator in Pittsburgh that was working specifically with physical product companies. And they had this very cool competition that was, you could travel all over the US and sort of run and do the marketing for this pitch competition. And I had done events and marketing, for my entire career to that point. So I said, well, I can do that. Little did I know, the incredible world that I was about to enter. I thought it was, and interesting that it was a nonprofit that was working with startups. And, here I am a couple of years later.
Very cool. Do you want to introduce Shantanu?
Yes, of course. So the 2018 Hardware Cup this year was an international affair. And we have the winner of the international finals, Shantanu Bella of Somatic Labs, here with us today.
Thank you. And I guess my name is Shantanu, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Somatic Labs. So we've created a platform that enables communication through touch. And a lot of the technology that we've designed and developed is built around an observation that a lot of the wearable devices that currently are out there on the market are almost like an iPhone that's shrunk down a little smaller and then strapped onto your body. And we ask the question, okay, what does your body do best? And it feels details about your surroundings, everything from the temperature of the room you're in to the seat that you're sitting in. And we've created technology that allows you to create sensations on a person's skin to communicate to them using that channel that the body understands best, which is touch. And
very cool. So before we kind of dive a bit deeper into kind of the Hardware Cup and what you guys are doing, do you maybe want to give us a bit of background on yourself, kind of where you grew up, where you went to school, kind of how you got to where you are now, and some career highlights along the way?
Yeah, definitely. So I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, and a lot of the initial kind of interest that I had was just in technology generally. But when I was touring universities, one of the things that I did was just go locally to Arizona State University and visit a lab there and kind of get an idea of what types of technology get developed. And that was when I first got some exposure to haptic technology, the type of technology that I'm working on right now. And I talked to the lab director and said, hey, can I work here? And he ended up saying yes. So I started working there when I was in high school, and then continued through undergrad, just working at the same lab. And after about 6 years or so, I built up a lot of projects that I've worked on. Anything related to what I was describing earlier, where we'd create a bodysuit or a chair, gloves, different types of wearable devices that would interact with your sense of touch. And from there, I was thinking a bit more about what I was building in the lab and how it could translate into real-world applications. And it became clear that there's a lot of situations where you can't look down at a phone, anywhere from a construction job site all the way to an astronaut flying in space. Those are all environments where you can't really pull out an iPhone and look at it. You have to be aware of your surroundings and maintain that situational awareness that allows you to get your job done and do it effectively and safely.
Sure. So before we kind of get more into the technology, I'm always really fascinated to know how people met their co-founders, because you have a couple co-founders as well, correct?
Yeah, I do.
So how did you meet each one of them, just out of curiosity?
So there's 4 of us total on the team, and I met all of them at university. So one of them I met, Jay, he worked at the same lab that I was working at. And then the other 2 I met just over the course of, going to classes and making friends. And each of them have bring a slightly different background, a mix of, computer science, electrical engineering, biomedical engineering, and other interests. So, but I guess the exact places that I met them are also pretty random. I think with all of them, it always started off as a friendship, and then a lot of the time I would just not shut up about what I was working on, and eventually,
that's awesome.
Eventually convince them that they should join me too. So.
Okay, very cool. So how did you guys get connected with Alpha Lab Gear and the Hardware Cup?
Yeah, so this was kind of also another random chance occurrence in some ways. I just sort of stumbled on the website and decided, okay, hey, might as well submit an application and see what happens. And it starts off as a regional event. So, we submitted an application for the Southern Regional in Texas. And because we were based in Arizona at the time, it seemed pretty easy to make a trip over to Texas to attend that pitch competition. So we submitted that application online, and just from there, we were really excited when we got notified that we were invited out.
Very cool. So Leah, walk us through a little bit more kind of what Alpha Lab Gear and the Hardware Cup is exactly, and how people can kind of either join the accelerator or apply to the Hardware Cup.
Sure. So Alpha Lab Gear is actually having its 5-year anniversary this year.
Wow, congrats. That's great.
Thank you. Yeah, when we started back in 2013, we were one of 4 hardware accelerators in the world.
Oh, wow.
It was much more common to have an accelerator that, was either general or was focused on software. But it was evident fairly early on that companies that are building physical products need something different than companies that are building software products, software platforms. So we started this accelerator here in Pittsburgh, which is a hub of both the manufacturing world, hundreds of years of manufacturing,
sure,
and also where Uber's got their self-driving cars, and we've got Google, and we've got Facebook, and we've got all sorts of very cool, very exciting tech stuff going on here. So we've got that mix that's kind of perfect for physical product companies. And we were seeing that investors were not, hardware wasn't the first thing on their mind, right? They needed to meet the companies and kind of have a better understanding of, why is it taking so long to get to the next point? Do I really want to invest in this? But once we had those same investors meet with our companies, they realized pretty quickly hey, this is a great investment. We can protect the IP. AI and robotics are super hot. This is a really great place for me to be putting my investment dollars. So we started the Hardware Cup 4 years ago as a way to showcase as many physical product companies around the US as we could, and then get those founders in the same room as investors and as corporate partners that can be great first customers, and just other entrepreneurs that want to be there and want to see, the latest and greatest. So it's a format that has been really successful for us. It started out as just, a handful of cities around the US, and we've grown it into what is now, covering all of the United States in a regional way, and then also having international partners in another 6 countries over the past 2 years that will hold their own Hardware Cup event and then send their finalists to Pittsburgh for the international finals.
Okay, interesting. And then how do you guys kind of pick a winner? Like, what made, Somatic Labs stand out so much for you guys to actually award them the kind of grand prize?
So this is really interesting. It's important to the Hardware Cup, what it stands for, that all of our judges be investors.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So that's a requirement that we have in each of our regional competitions at our international finals. Everyone that is judging you as a company and deciding who gets a $50,000 investment is an investor.
Okay.
So not only are they excited to, see the cream of the crop in each region and at the finals, but you're getting that perspective, which has been some of the most important feedback that these companies have gotten. Even if they don't end up winning, they're getting connected to these investors and they're getting asked these tough questions that maybe they're not being asked just when they're talking to customers, when they're talking to accelerators,
sure,
that kind of thing. And Somatic is interesting because, he did a demo and had a product to show, but it wasn't something that, he was manufacturing at scale at the time of the Hardware Cup. It wasn't something that was really, far along and, okay, ready to go, ready to put my rubber stamp on. It was more of a, hey, this is a really exciting technology. This is something that, we can see have a number of applications in a number of different industries. And I think it's so great that the judges chose tech that was in that, early stage, because that's what the Hardware Cup is for. It's a $50,000 grand prize. It's not, $1 million round. It's meant to try to help you get to that next stage. So I was pretty excited that the judges could see, from early on that this is exciting tech. This is an exciting founder, and we want to get in early.
Very cool. So Shantanu, walk me through kind of how far along was the product that you brought to the Hardware Cup, and did it evolve over kind of since then, or where are you guys kind of at when you went there, and where is it kind of now?
Yeah, so where we were at when we went there was very much after we had already designed and developed a prototype and were able to get some customer interest, but we weren't yet at the point where we had the capacity or the capital really to fulfill large orders, or we were kind of right at the stage where we needed to raise funding. Okay,
so sorry to cut you off, but when you say prototype, like how was it basically the prototype right before it goes to production, or how far along were you in kind of that prototype stage?
Yeah, so, and this is something that Leah had alluded to when it comes to hardware, is that, for us, that prototype took a good 2 years to design and develop.
Okay.
And it was something that we were able to demonstrate.
Okay.
But it also isn't something that we were at a point where we could immediately manufacture it at scale.
Okay.
And so when you mention production, one of the things that happens with hardware is that the production process tends to be something that requires a lot of capital and relationships with manufacturers.
Right.
And that's something that we've been fortunate to be able to build over the last few months. not only were we able to raise capital, but also start to build the relationships that are necessary to bring it to production.
Interesting.
So when we applied for the hardware cup, we were at a point where we could make low volumes, so we could make a batch of 10, maybe 20.
Okay.
But we weren't at a point where we could make 10,000 on demand.
Sure.
And what we had as a demonstration was a headband, and this is a headband that could fit inside of any hard hat or helmet, as well as any kind of headset. And that headband creates sensations that you feel moving across your forehead.
Okay.
And so, what we demonstrated during the competition was the ability to tell someone, hey, there's something that you should be paying attention to your left, or there's something behind you that's dangerous. Those are alerts that you get that you feel directly on the inside of the helmet that you're wearing or the hard hat that you're wearing.
Okay.
And that prototype is not something that was already placed inside of a commercially available helmet yet,
right.
But it was something that is enough for us to get interest from customers as well as investors. And right now we're at a point where we've got 3 pilot tests running with our earliest customers, and we're working on moving that towards final production over the next 6 months.
Very cool. So I know it's kind of hard to dive a little bit deeper into probably kind of the exact kind of feel of this thing. So it's like a headband that's inside a helmet, or I guess it could potentially be in anything, and you said it kind of gives me some sort of like vibration notification alert, but like dive a little bit deeper into that. How does that kind of work? Is it connected to my phone? Is it connected to some other device, or how does it kind of work?
Yeah, so in terms of the sensations themselves, the way it feels like is almost like someone taking their finger and moving it across your forehead in different directions.
Okay, interesting.
So if I wanted to tell you to turn left, it almost feels like someone's taking their finger and moving it to the left across your forehead.
Oh, very cool.
Telling you to pay attention in that direction. And we can also do more kind of complicated and symbolic types of messages too. So if you're trying to tell someone, hey, the conditions around you are dangerous, we just make it feel really annoying and intense, the sensation that you feel on your forehead.
Oh, and, interesting.
And we have kind of different types of sensations we could create too. Stuff that feels more kind of soothing or calming. Some stuff that feels very very harsh and undesirable, you could say. And,
sure.
And we kind of design that around the experiences that the customer wants. So if it's someone who's trying to deliver alerts or warnings, we do connect over Bluetooth. So any cell phone or computer can send those alerts to the device.
Okay.
And we're working on making it adaptable to other types of communication protocols too.
Okay. So there's no audio though, right? Or there's nothing like visual, there's no screen, right? It's just like a...
Yeah, so the device doesn't have any visual or auditory feedback at all. And the goal there is, we're targeting environments where people are wearing hearing protection, or
right.
They're doing a job where, they have to be looking at the equipment that they're working with, or paying attention to their surroundings. And in some ways, the way we think about the technology we've developed is, giving you access to the information that you need when your eyes and ears are unavailable to access it.
Sure. And then how does that kind of work with people with like a disability or accessibility issues? Because you could do a lot of that stuff with this, correct?
Yeah, definitely. And that's something that, in some ways we're, actively looking at partnering with organizations that have the expertise to deliver that type of solution. So in some ways we've developed this technology as a platform that, if you're a construction company, you can deliver the alerts for a job site. But if you're, say, trying to help someone navigate
sure.
With a visual impairment, that's also something that you can do. And one of our customers is actually developing exactly that type of application where they're giving real-time navigation to individuals who are blind or visually impaired, and allowing them to understand the layout and kind of the uh, environment around them and how to navigate it without being in danger.
Sure. Well, and I'm assuming too, even if they were people that are deaf, right? Because you could guide them if they needed it as well, right? In certain situations, potentially.
Yeah, and in some ways, we allow our customers to get creative with the types of things that they want to communicate. So it doesn't always have to be navigation. It could be even even simpler things like so one of the applications that we have that's a really simple example is the different emoji that you can send in a text message.
Oh, interesting.
One of the things that we were thinking about is, okay, how do we make that something that's an accessible experience? And we've basically created sensations that correspond to the different emoji that you can send someone. And that's another kind of demonstration of how you can use the technology is, take something that's visual and then turn it into something that you can also feel. So someone who maybe can't see the emoji can also feel that. And, I could imagine there must be similar types of applications for, other people as well.
Sure. Well, and I would assume because you could easily kind of fit this headband under different types of, like headwear, like hats and obviously, like you mentioned, kind of construction helmet and stuff like that. But I'm assuming you could also eventually build other things where I could wear something around my wrist or maybe my ankle or somewhere else, right? To give me, depending on kind of what I need. Like, I think the potential of this is actually really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. So we right now one of the developments that we have is a version of our platform that fits inside of Fabric.
Oh,
so,
okay. Interesting.
We can embed the electronics directly inside of fabric and clothing, and the next step in some ways is making it thin enough and small enough that again we want our customers to get as creative with it as possible. So right now we have helmets and headsets, but as we make the technology thinner, more durable, and more easy to embed wherever you want it to go, we can basically let our customers decide, hey, maybe we want it somewhere else, and it's just a matter of sewing it and stitching it into the right place.
Sure. So how does this all tie to the Zorb development kit?
Yeah, so the development kit is something that we provide right now as a way for people to play and experiment with the technology. And, because we are at a stage where we're working towards, mass production and working towards scaling up production.
Right.
We want to make sure that we're able to get customers on board immediately right now, so we can start getting their feedback and learn more about how they get the most value out of the system. So the development kit is a way for them to basically make a purchase right now of one or two or maybe 10 units at a small volume and see where they put it, how they use it, and we can start to ask them questions that help us guide the product development. One of the teams that's using our development kit that we're really excited to work with is a team at NASA that's redesigning the spacesuit.
Oh, interesting.
And one of their desired kind of end goals is to see whether you can give someone information about things that are happening around them as well as things that are happening in the spacesuit itself. So, because there's no up, down, left, or right in space, you could feel the direction of the ISS relative to where you are.
Interesting.
Or you could feel, changes in, for example, the pressure or the amount of oxygen you have available. Things like that can be communicated as something that, again, you don't have to pull out an iPhone or an iPad, and you definitely can't do that during a spacewalk. But
sure,
if your suit is able to, give you that information in a very intuitive way, the goal is to, improve efficiency and safety.
Yeah, that's quite fascinating actually, because there's a ton of industries and verticals that you guys could kind of go in based on where you put your guys' kind of hardware into different form factors, right? Because that's quite fascinating.
Thanks for listening to Building the Future. This show is heard by more than 1 million people monthly in over 15 markets worldwide, including Silicon Valley. Kevin Horick's guests are leading business owners, successful entrepreneurs, and merchandisers worldwide. Now, your brand has an opportunity to tap into this dedicated and active group of business people who are looking for places to invest and the right opportunities to support. Find out how you can get involved at buildingthefutureshow.com.
I'm curious then, where can people get more information about what you guys are doing and actually get access to the development kit?
Yeah, so our website is zorbtouch.com. So that's ZORB and then touch and .com. And that website, gives an overview of the development kits that we provide and the software that we provide. And that's the best place to get started. But you can also just send us an email on the website too, and we'd be happy to tell you more either over the phone or over email.
Sure. And you guys actually have, like, people can get one of the headbands, a development kit, and you guys kind of have a wristband that's pretty cool. And then obviously you have like a design studio. What exactly is the design studio, and how do people kind of use that?
Yeah, definitely. It's the different form factors that we provide are ways that people can experiment with the technology. So the headband and wristband can all be reprogrammed to create different types of sensations. So the design studio is what allows you to kind of come up with your own ideas for basically feelings on your skin. So we think of it as Photoshop for your sense of touch, where you can kind of drag and drop different building blocks of something that's either moving across your skin or something that feels like an intense pulse in a specific location. And the design studio, you can install it on any computer, whether it's a PC or Mac, and kind of get started playing with the sensations you want to create. And then when it comes time to actually deliver those sensations, we also provide an app for your iPhone where you can just take the sensations you've designed in the design studio and come up with the triggers and situations where you want someone to feel those sensations. And so it allows you to come up with ideas for what you want someone to feel, and then specify, okay, when do you want someone to feel it? What is the input? Is it an alarm? Is it a sensor that gets triggered? And is it navigation, like GPS, where you're trying to tell someone to turn right, turn left? All of those parts of the process are enabled by the software.
Very cool. So Leah, I'm curious then to step back to you a little bit. How do you guys at Alpha Lab Gear kind of work with companies to actually get them to a point where they could potentially apply to the hardware cup?
So, when we talked about early stage being the really the goal of the type of companies that we want to apply, we want companies that $50,000 would be meaningful to them. So in some cases, there's not even a need to get them to a point where they can apply for the hardware cup. It's more about, once they have applied for the hardware cup and they're kind of in our network and in our world, then what can we do? What connections can we make for them outside of just the single hardware cup events? And one way we do that is the day after our international finals, we have an investor corporate day. And that is meant to be a time where, at the event itself, there's 300 people. It's super exciting. You've got lots of people that want to come up and talk to you at your demo table. It's not really the time to sit down and have a meaningful discussion with an investor or a potential corporate partner. It's the time to get their cards so you can follow up later, right? So the day after, we get those people all in the same room, but just the companies themselves, the investors and the corporates. and they have 15-minute meetings where they can rotate around the room and get to meet all of the US and international companies, and see if there are any good fits, for investment now, for investment 3 years from now, for being an early customer, that sort of thing. So that's really important to the Hardware Cup mission, is that it's not just, one person wins $50,000 and then we do it again next year. It's meant to be something that creates meaningful relationships and meaningful connections for everyone.
Sure. So I want to go a little bit deeper into the Hardware Cup in a second, but you guys' accelerator, how long is it, and what is there kind of specific things that you guys look for in companies to go through your accelerator?
Yes. So we actually just recently, this past year, changed up our model a bit. It used to be a 40-week, once a year accelerator model where, you send in your application and we do hundreds of applications, we do interviews, and we choose about 8 or 9 companies to come into the Alpha Lab Gear Accelerator. Then we learned after a couple of years that, while 40 weeks is important for some companies to have the time and the money that they need, where we're really adding the most value is the first part of customer discovery and product market fit, and then the second part of manufacturing at scale. So we actually divided it into 2 separate cohorts, 2 separate application processes, because sometimes you need both, sometimes you only need one. Sometimes you've already done your product market fit and you really need those connections to manufacturers. Sometimes you go through the market validation and you need another year before you're even ready to think about design for manufacturing and manufacturing at scale. So in dividing those up, we're both increasing the total amount of money that you could get, because it's a separate application and separate investment for each cohort, but it's also really just how are companies getting the most out of their time with us. And the way that we're doing that is through those two separate cohorts. So there's an online application twice a year. For the product market fit, we're looking for a really strong team, a really exciting market opportunity, and a bit more than an idea, but we have even taken a couple of cases of a really good idea where we think that the tech will come. And then for the manufacturing module, we're looking for companies that already have a working prototype and paying customers and are looking to scale their manufacturing, because we've got the connections to help them both perfect their design for manufacturing and get them hooked up with supply chain partners and local and national and international manufacturers.
Got you. But I don't need to go through the accelerator to apply for the Hardware Cup, and I don't need to necessarily be a part of the Hardware Cup to do the accelerator, correct?
Nope. Those are,
Okay.
While it's the Alpha Lab Gear Hardware Cup and it's, it's meant to support hardware companies, there's no requirement to do one or the other.
Okay. So walk me through a little bit more of the Hardware Cup and what exactly are you guys kind of looking for in that? We've kind of covered it throughout, but just so people are 100% clear on kind of what you guys do and what you guys look for when kind of having people apply for the Hardware Cup.
So what's really important here is that hardware we define very broadly. So it's anything with a physical product component is hardware to us. So that has been fashion, and that has been robotics, and that has been everything in between. So just because it's not, the highest tech, just because it's not electronics, that doesn't mean that it's not hardware. We're really looking to support physical product companies.
Right. Okay. Interesting. And then how often do you guys do this? You do it once a year, correct?
Yes, we do it once a year. So normally what we do is open up applications right around December 1st. And that's an online application through F6S. And anyone in the entire United States is welcome to apply. And then we'll have 6 or 7 different regional events where from our pool of hundreds and hundreds of applicants, we'll choose 6 semifinalists for each of those different locations. Anyone that's not located in the city where the event is happening gets a travel stipend, just like in the case of Somatic Labs, because we really want it to be, accessible to these early companies. So we want everyone to be able to travel to the city where the event is happening. And
Right.
at each one of those events, we get hopefully about 100 people in the audience, a mix of entrepreneurs and corporates and investors. And they do a 4-minute pitch and then a 4-minute Q&A with our panel of judges, and they choose the winner who gets a cash prize. In years past, they've gotten SolidWorks license. They've gotten some other hardware prizes, and then the finalists from each one of those regions, plus our international finalists, all get a trip back to Pittsburgh for national finals.
Oh, very
so that's
cool.
kind of the process.
Okay, and then Somatic Labs was your grand prize winner. How do you guys kind of keep in contact with them and help them kind of beyond, just winning?
So the first thing that happens is our partner at StartBot is the investor that puts up the $50,000 grand prize. So we make sure that we get them connected so they can close that investment and they can get their prize. And of course, the investor day, the day after, we make sure that they can meet with as many of the corporates and investors as possible. But then we also have some folks who watch the live stream from around the US and around the rest of the world who get to see who the finalists are. And if they express interest, then we make those connections. We hold office hours that are available all the time on our website to just help companies get connected to any resources that they need. So that same format, we encourage everyone that applies to the Hardware Cup, participates in the Hardware Cup, and then a couple months go by and they say, you know what, we actually really need Y connection now. Well, then they have that. They have a way of getting connected to us. But now we've been doing this for a few years. So we had last year's winner, the 2017 winner, Virginie, actually come and do a presentation this year, give everyone the update on, what was I able to do with that investment and other investments that I received and where am I now, and then had her also participate in these meetings with the corporates and investors. So, once you're in the Hardware Cup network, if there's a way that we can help you out and get you connected in future years, then we're happy to do that. That's all part of the same mission.
Very cool. So Shantanu, where do you guys kind of go from here now? Like, you won the Hardware Cup, you got some more money. Where do you guys kind of go from here? Are you looking to raise more money? Where are you guys kind of at right now?
Yeah, so we're in a situation where we've just wrapped up that round of investment. We're thankful that we're kind of thinking through whether we want to bring on board more investors than we initially were thinking about bringing on board. So we're set out to raise $500,000, and we have more interest than that. So
congrats,
that's
great.
We're actively considering. But in terms of our next steps, we've got a lot of customers that are really excited to work with us. I mentioned those 3 pilot tests earlier. What we're working on is taking each of those pilot tests and moving them towards a longer term deployment where we can get an idea of how the product itself can evolve to provide more value. And what that looks like over time is also onboarding more customers. So we've got a lot of interest in the aerospace industry. I mentioned NASA earlier, but there's other aerospace companies we're in discussion with, specifically related to pilots. And so pilots and astronauts both have a very stressful work environment, and that's something that we've been able to build relationships, and we're looking forward to onboarding more customers as well. So a lot of it's just continuing to sell, continuing to grow the company, and make sure that we're able to not only build the relationships but deliver more products as well.
Sure. So are those pilot programs in these different companies, are they paid, or are you guys kind of doing these as kind of a research thing?
Yeah, so they are paid, and that's one of the things that was very helpful with the Hardware Cup, in the sense that after the competition, we were able to set up these pilots in a way that was they are paid pilots, but we also gave a discounted price because we were able to get that funding and make it so we give our customers a discount in exchange for data. And that's a really important thing for us, is making sure that when we do one of these tests, we're not just looking for making the customer more successful. That's goal number one, but we're also looking to get a quantitative measurement of that. We want to know, okay, if we're making people more safe and more efficient, we want to know how much, right? Is it they're doing their job 5% better? Is it that there's 10% fewer accidents? Is what is the number that matters most to the company, and can we get a quantifiable value for that? And that's the goal over the next 6 months, is getting to a point where we not only have those numbers, but we have additional customers as a result of those numbers. Because as soon as we can point to that number, it becomes not just a product that you can purchase, but something that pays for itself, where you pay a little bit of money now for the product, but over time, because everything's operating more efficiently and everything's more safe, you're spending less money.
Sure. So is the data, how do I get access to the data? Does it sync to the cloud at some point, or how does that kind of work?
Yeah, so the data in this case is actually much more specific to the organization, in that when it's an organization that's dealing with high stress work environments, we look at specifically accident rates, failure rates, and also recognition rates. Meaning, if you give someone an instruction, how quickly do they respond? How accurately do they respond? And then what is the rate at which the response is incorrect? And with a lot of these environments, you're dealing with equipment that ranges from very simple to extremely complex. And that, in that sense, we don't actually collect the data ourselves, but what we do is the companies we work with, our customers, they collect the data to understand their own business, and we request them to share it with us, because we want to know that we're also doing a good job and making a difference for those numbers.
Got you. Okay. Yeah. Well, and part of it too, I think some of the biggest probably hurdle for you guys, even if you decided to build something, is sometimes those job sites they could be pretty remote, right? Or they don't have internet access, or maybe not even cell phone access. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. And, in that sense, we, in some ways, we rely on our customers to provide us with that information, but it's definitely what we found is that especially because what we're doing provides them with value, they're in many cases excited to tell us that. So when we've shipped the product and they're testing it out, we frequently have phone calls and regular checkups with our customers to figure out how things are going. And we found that they whenever we talk to them, they're excited to tell us when things are going really great, and when things aren't going great, they also tell us. So it helps us a lot to have those conversations, and a lot of the data, because it's also important to our customers' businesses, we let them decide how much they want to share. But in general, they So far things are going great, and we look forward to getting those final results.
Sure. Well, and I think that what you guys are providing to, especially in the verticals where you're providing safety or making an environment safer for people, I think obviously most companies care about that and their employees, right? And so, having just something like that can make their employees feel safer, I think is very beneficial, right? And then all the other stuff that you guys are doing, if you can direct me in certain directions and whatnot, is actually quite fascinating. So where do you guys, though, kind of decide which type of hardware? I know you kind of mentioned sometimes it's a little related to what your customer thinks, but do you guys give them a spec and say, you guys could kind of put this in anything, whether it's clothing or in a helmet or into like a wrist type watch thing? Do you guys give them kind of like a hardware spec that they need, or how does that kind of work? Like if I want to put it into something that you guys haven't thought of yet, how does that kind of work? Or do I have to work with you guys to kind of figure that out?
Yeah, so right now, pretty much all of our customers are working with headsets and helmets. And
okay.
The main reason for that is, the environments that I described. Pretty much everyone in those contexts is wearing some kind of a hard hat or helmet or some type of protection. And the reason why we provide a couple other form factors on our website is just to get people thinking about other places where they can embed it. In terms of the longer term kind of hardware spec, that's definitely something that we do discuss in detail if someone is asking for something very different from what we already have. And as a startup too, we end up having to make decisions. Sometimes you don't want to, you can't serve as every customer, right? So sometimes we do get requests where we have to say no, and that's something that we actively think about as well as how do we stay focused, and how do we stay how do we basically stay on top of the customer requests that seem to have the highest value?
No, makes a lot of sense. But we're kind of coming to the end of the show. So maybe, Shantanu, can you maybe mention where people can get more information about you guys and all the stuff we talked about today? And then Leah, I'll let you do that as well.
Yeah, definitely. So that's our website is probably the best place to start. That's zorbtouch.com. That's zorbtouch.com. And feel free to send an email.
Perfect. And Leah, do you want to close with mentioning where people can get more information about Alpha Lab gear and the Hardware Cup?
Sure thing. If you're interested in Alpha Lab gear, our accelerator in Pittsburgh, that's alphalabgear.org. And if you are interested in the Hardware Cup, like I mentioned, we'll be opening applications early December of this year. That's hardwarecup.com.
Sure. And if people want more information before that, I'm assuming they could kind of reach out to you and get on some sort of list or something to actually get notified when you guys are actually accepting registration?
Absolutely. Yep. Our contact info is on there. You can shoot us an email and you can sign up for the mailing list so you'll be the first to know when it launches.
Perfect, guys. Well, I really appreciate you both taking time in your day to be on the show, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you, and have a good rest of your day.
Thanks so much.
Yeah,
Thanks, guys. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. Please visit our website at buildingthefutureshow.com to join the free community, sign up for our newsletter, or to sponsor the show. The music is done by Electric Mantra. You can check him out at electricmantra.com and keep building the future.